tall, gangly thing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to High Roll Radio, episode number 13. My name is Nick Gangly Di Pasquale. I'm your host, and joined tonight, I have my lovely, wonderful, beautiful, constant co-host. It's Spicy Appies. Appies, how you doing?
Hello, Nick SPICYAPPIES Di Pasquale here.
this is our bit now.
I'm hanging in there. Set 9's been fun, playing some PvE, enjoying life, touching some grass a little bit, you know.
All right, well, if this is anyone's first time watching or if you're listening later on, this is a live Teamfight Tactics call-in show where you, the viewer, are just as much a part of the show as we are. We will literally take your questions, your hot takes, your discussion points, anything you want to talk about live on the show. All you have to do is use !Discord in the chat right now to get into our Discord. From there, you will see on the left side the Submit Takes channel. Go ahead and put your take, your discussion point, anything you want to say. We used to do more hot takes, and then we kind of realized as time went on, it works a little bit better if you just tell us what you want to talk about. Come on, give us a prompt, and the three of us will talk about it together live on the show. So go into the Submit Takes topic, throw your take in there or your discussion point, then go ahead into the waiting room and mute yourself. Don't deafen, just mute yourself. And then if we like your take, we will bring you live onto the show to chat. So now that I've given the spiel, we Appies, you and I can just talk a little bit. First, let's kind of recap kind of what's been going on outside of TFT, personal stuff. What have you been up to? Because it's been a little bit since we've done the show.
It has been, yeah. I just been taking time away from TFT to enjoy life. I went to a Pokemon tournament and I met Wolf. I met Necra. Pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
I met Lexar in real life, so there's like a big overlap between TFT and VGC actually, which is kind of weird. Yeah, it was weird because I was sitting at the table first. I made it to day 2. I did better than I thought I would, and so I'm like sitting at the table talking to my opponent who I had seen. It was like a weird moment because I don't think about it much anymore, but like I guess I'm like to TFT as like a lot of these people are to VGC now, right? And then I'm like one of the higher level players or like kind of creator or whatever. And so I'm like sitting across from from Nick Navarre, who I just watched like top 8 in an event the other day on Twitch. And I'm like, holy crap, oh my God, like I'm gonna ask for an autograph. And they're like both sitting right there to like, holy shit. And then yeah, it was cool. I like started talking to him about how like I come from TFT, and then Wolf was like, oh my God, are you SPICYAPPIES? Like the guy who I was like, oh my God, it was cool. It was very cool to meet them. I was like very starstruck. So it was nice.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man. What was the event actually like? Like, was it big?
Yeah, it was like I think it was like 700 people just for VGC competing, and it was like in this giant convention hall in Hartford, Connecticut. And so there was like one side was like all VGC stuff, the other side was, which is the video game, like the double battle thing, and then the other side was TCG, the card game, and then there was like Pokemon Go section as well. Dude, Pokemon Go fans, they pop off so hard. Like there's a little stream set up in the side area, right? Where like 2 people will be selected and they go up and they play on stream. And there'd be big crowds like watching it like live, and the Pokemon Go crowd was the loudest, like most insane crowd I've ever seen in my entire life. Anytime, like I don't know how to play Pokemon Go, but you see one of them start going like this, like just tapping like crazy for anyone who can't see me, and then the whole crowd would be like, "Holy shit!" It was so cool. They seem like a really good community.
I don't know anything about competitive Pokemon Go except that Ken, like the king of Smash, plays competitive Pokemon Go. That's all I know. Yeah. I just see him tweet about it, but I don't know anything beyond that. I'm sure it's pretty hype. So actually, something a little bit more relevant for like today. I don't know, because you're East Coast as well. Are you seeing the smoke of the Canadian wildfires?
I haven't. I didn't even know it was a thing until I saw a post about how like there's like this giant Diablo ad in New York and like saying like welcome to hell, New York, and then the whole sky is like it feels kind of funny to laugh about this because it's so just in the environment, but like it's insane.
It's crazy. I mean, in Jersey, it's not quite as bad as New York City, thank God, but it is. I mean, it's just yellow outside. I literally, like, I went for a walk, which was like probably not wise, because it was probably like I was at work, and I was like, I'm going on a smoke break, which means I was just walking around a pond with surrounded by tons of smoke everywhere. But no, it literally felt like I was in a movie. Someone made the joke that, like, if we were in a movie right now, you would be somewhere in Mexico, because it was just like a yellow filter over everything, which like they kind of do in movies whenever they're showing, to be Mexico. But yeah, Jersey is pretty crazy right now. It's definitely like everything smells like a bonfire. It's definitely does not feel good to breathe outside. It's all yellow. It is kind of horrifying. So
damn.
Hopefully that gets cleared up. And I heard New York City apparently right now is the most polluted, has the worst quality air in the world as of right now. So
did not before.
No, it did not.
That's surprising.
So hopefully this all gets taken care of soon, because
I mean,
kind of done with it already.
How has life been outside of the walking in a movie?
Well, life's been good. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen, anyone who's watching this show probably knows that we released the K3soju documentary last week, which was, I mean, it was definitely a weight lifted off my shoulders for so many reasons. It was in production for a long time, and then it was sitting, not doing any, just on the shelf. The release was we were unsure of when it was going to get out into the public. And then on top of that, it's like it finally gets released, and you have to wait and see like what people say about it. And I was telling Appies before that I really tried to not look at like what the public perception of it was. But it's hard, when you release something, you want to know what people are thinking. And I'm really, really glad to be able to say that people were super encouraging and very positive about it. And so just shout out to everyone. I had so many people from TFT DM me or talk in my Discord server saying that they loved it, or that they liked a specific part, or that they liked seeing this kind of content. And to be honest, it like really made my day. Those 2 days, I was so stressed leading up to the actual release day. And to see so much positivity from the community, it really, really made me feel good. So just thank you to everyone.
You deserve it. It was so good. It was such a good documentary.
Well,
anyone who has not watched it, just go look up Soju documentary on YouTube. I'm sure it'll pop up. It is like S tier content that TFT really needed. So.
Well, and if you're interested in learning more about it, after the stream today, right after High Roll Radio, I'm going to be doing a watch through of the documentary where I'll give you a little bit more of like the behind the scenes, talk through some of the moments of the doc. Appies knows pretty much everything, but I mean, there's some really cool stuff that went on where I think when you actually get the context of like how things happened, it would kind of blow your mind. So I definitely encourage you all to stick around. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk through it all together. But yeah, outside of that,
I was gonna say, for some context on how long this has been cooking, like at Summit, I remember you watching it, you like giving us a little preview of it, and it was like, he's been working on this for a long time. So
it was pretty close to done at Summit too, if I remember correctly. It was probably like 80% done, I think, right? Because it had all the Set 7 regional stuff in it, or no? Did it?
Yeah, it did. I remember watching the Bryce part.
Yeah.
There, it's just it all works so well.
Yeah, so it definitely worked out. So there's that. I have a couple other documentaries that I'm trying to finish up right now, and then some other work stuff. So it's been hectic. I haven't gotten to play much Set 9, but I'm trying to wrap up everything soon so that I can have a little bit more time to play some games.
Skara Doc coming soon.
That's right. Hey, fun fact, I reached out to Skara about appearing in the Soju documentary, and he never got back to me. That's a fun fact.
Unlucky.
Yeah, unlucky, absolutely.
Ego streamer.
So we've got plenty to talk about today. I said we just go for it. And so one thing I want to let everyone know who is watching, again, if you guys want to go in the show, I gave the spiel before. Most of you know how to get on. But we'll probably just bring callers on as they are relevant to whatever it is we're talking about. So just a quick breakdown of what the night's going to look like. We're going to talk about Set 8 Worlds. We're going to recap that, talk about NA taking on the title. After that, we will talk about... Well, actually, I guess we talked a little bit about the Soju documentary already. Maybe we'll go back to that if anyone has anything they want to talk about. But I don't really know how much there is to really talk about apart from just watching it. We also have, obviously, Set 9 PBE. We have all the new things that have been announced regarding Set 9. So even if you haven't gotten to play it, but you've heard about some of the new things you want to talk about with Legends, Portals, blah, blah, blah. Feel free to share a take about that. And then obviously one of some of the biggest news that we've heard recently is the Set 10 LAN that was announced in Vegas this December. I think it's December 8th through 10th. 512 person open bracket. So we'll talk all about that stuff. So feel free to drop a take in. We'll bring callers in throughout the night. So let's do it. Set 8, Worlds, North America wins, replay, takes home the title. Tell me a little bit first, Appies. Where were you when it happened? Were you watching live? Where were you when North America won Worlds?
Where was I? I was... Oh, you know what it was? I was going to Miss Appy's parents' house for like a barbecue that morning. Era is like in the afternoon, like in the car ride there, I was watching my phone as you won. And I was like, let's go. And they won Worlds. And then also I was like, nice. No, that was the extent of the excitement for me, unfortunately. For us. But it was awesome. Dude, Replay and Setsuko really played out of their minds. I mean, as well as Jukyu. Everyone from NA really, we had 3 representatives, right? Was there
Weijin
one more?
Weijin,
yes, Weijin as well. Sorry, Weijin popped off super hard too. I mean, everyone just did really well. I feel like this was the only time I've ever seen. Obviously, I guess the only time we won, but also the time where I feel like there was a clear gap between like North America and the rest of the field. It felt like it, right? Like Setsuko top 1 both the first 2 days. Replay like right up there with him both the first 2 days. And then they just looked really good the whole event.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I will say it felt like a huge gap until like the very end of day 2. I felt like where Weijin and Jukyu both like went like 8th.
Yeah.
Like they both like dropped very hard, very fast. But they were both kind of playing that like 1st or 8th style or something. You know, they were on the cusp at that point. What's the difference? And then Tetsuko didn't have like the best day 3, but even still, like, I mean, did you see the numbers that like NA had a significant gap in AVP between them and the 2nd place major region who had like multiple representatives. And this isn't the first time. Like NA has the best average AVP at Worlds. I guess you could just say
in
best
general?
AVP at Worlds in general. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Despite the fact that we've never won, we typically have.
Hey. We won 1.
That's right. That's true. Now we have. Even going into it. Yeah. NA has been
going into it too.
Yeah. Going
That's
into it,
crazy.
we had the best AVP at Worlds despite having never won, and now obviously we definitely maintain that while having a world title under our belt. And it's kind of crazy that like Setsuko and Replay were the top 2 because they felt like the top 2, right? Like going into Worlds, like that's who we would have put our money on to win Worlds. And maybe more people would say Setsuko over Replay, but like, man, they actually did it. And that's like, it's not all the time in TFT you get to see that happen.
People who say TFT is all luck are just shaken after that Worlds. Because, I mean, I think they really... Not that it hasn't improved a million times over anyways, but they really proved that like there is a level of consistency to TFT, like being good at TFT, right? Like you can be consistent TFT if you are just really, really good at it. And they were, and they are still very good at it, obviously. It was cool to watch. I'm very happy that they took it home. I think as far as like Setsuko on day 3, this is my theory. I feel like Setsuko is just really prone to nerves. So I feel like in like the only reason he's ever had like that like ladder warrior moniker too is just I think he was more nervous in tournament. I don't think like there's a huge play style difference between ladder and tournament, at least at this point in TFT's history. Like, you know, like ladder's very good. Tournament is just if you try to play differently in tournament, you're just gonna crash and burn because you need to play how you practice. And I feel like maybe Tetsuko is just bundles of nerves over and over again until he made it click. And now, I mean, if that is the case, then, you know, day 3 of Worlds and you could potentially win the world championship and become the first player in history to be a North American world champion, like that's where the pressure's on, and maybe it got to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, right? Like he talked about it on Don't Talk If You Don't Know for even like the whatever you want to call them, these like kind of second tier events of like Mecha Cup Corrupted Cup, Defender Cup, those kinds of things where, yeah, like you're saying, he's even had nerves in those moments. So how much more would he be feeling it in the final day of Worlds? I got to talk to Replay after he won in an interview, and one thing I brought up to him was the idea of like comfort in TFT. There's something I noticed when I was how do I say this? I've been a Replay fan for the majority of, or like for a decent amount of the set, but I didn't really watch him all that much until regionals. And at regionals, I got to see him play a decent amount, and I noticed, like everyone, he's playing this like 80 flex, like he's playing a lot of like Infinity, he's playing a lot of Kale openers, blah blah blah. And one thing I noticed was like certain players, you can kind of tell when they get into like a groove, when they come and play in a comfort spot. And at Worlds, there was this one moment, and I want to say it was on day 2, where I randomly like go to his stream to see his board, and I see a level 8 board that's like some sort of like Infinity kind of flex with a Rammus in the front line as well. And as soon as I saw this board, I thought to myself like, oh, this is a top 4. Like Replay always top 4s this, because this is the way he wants to play. And it gave me this feeling that I think I don't always feel in TFT, where it's like, you want to play to your outs, you want to play to the odds, like you want to play what the game gives you, but at the same time, I actually think that TFT is still the kind of game where people can have these like signature moves or signature boards, or even at least like parts of their game where fans can say like they've done this a million times and they can do it again. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do. I think I do this a lot in coaching. No plug. But I think it's really important to have an idea of what you want to do in any game of TFT. And the thing is, there's a lot of things that go into what you want to do, right? Whether it be what your resources make you want to do, what your items and your augments, what units you have, where they make you want to go. But a big part of that is that in some situations you have too many options to really like delve deep into it, and like there's too many ups and downs to every line, right? It's really on like stage 1 and stage 2 when you're holding units to like set yourself for the game. If holding one unit over another might just be a matter of preference, and it's really important to actually play the game in a way where like you do keep your preference in mind, because if you don't have something to fall back on, if you try to playing flexibly is not playing anything from any spot. That's a myth. Playing flexibly is playing anything from the right spot, right? And for for a lot of people, like there isn't always going to be like for a lot of spots in TFT, there isn't always going to be a night and day answer, like a clear like this is the best thing. Sometimes there will be, right? And sometimes it'll be close, but you'll still be able to like reason it out. But sometimes it's close enough and you don't have enough time and you're under stress and you have to say, I'm going to play this line because I like this line, because I'm comfortable in this line, because this is what I fall back onto. Because I know I've played this a billion times, I know exactly where it spikes, where it needs to be, where it wants to be, and so I know how to navigate it well, and that's totally fine. There's definitely room in TFT. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we can be so optimal that what you want to play is never a consideration.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you know what? It reminds me a little bit of something we've talked about on the podcast before, which is like sometimes it's kind of okay to put players in boxes. I think of like set 6, like vanilla set 6, not 6.5, where you were, or was it? No, it was 6. Yeah, where you were known as like one of the few Arcanist players alongside Ramblin', right? That was vanilla 6.
That was my jam.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said, even on like the fandom side, where when you can narrow these players down to like, oh, I resonate with that play style, and so I like that kind of player, or even like, oh, I know this player, I don't know that much about him, but I know that they typically like to play this. It's kind of like easier to hold on to. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think going into Worlds, even if you hadn't watched a ton of replay, but you knew like this is the guy that if he gets an Infinity,
gets a Rammus,
playing, if he gets a Rammus, like
he wins the game. He top 4s the game.
Yeah. Like, that's really cool. And I felt like the fact that kind of clicked for me. In a set where, like, admittedly, I've definitely been more out of touch than previous sets, it was a really cool moment for me to say, like, oh, man, I feel like a fan of this game because I was able to recognize that moment. And I hope that there are other people that got to feel something similar to that as well.
I will say, not to pivot into set 9 talk yet, but I will say, because I think this is a very direct correlation, that's going to come out a lot more with Legends, because Legends like directly lets you play towards a certain style. So like the maybe Setsuko's taking TK every game, or Soju's taking TK every game. And you're like, oh, like he's a TK player, like I know this.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. Let's try to remember to circle back to that, because that's a really good point. I feel like that'll be really good for the set 9 part of the conversation. Another thing to talk about with set 8 before we kind of let go of that and move on to some other things is Don't Talk If You Don't Know. Power rankings are releasing tomorrow as of recording. That'll be Thursday, June 8th when they go live and put out all of that information. Unless actually it's possible they release the actual PR tonight. I'm not exactly sure how it works. But all set long, people have been saying Dish Soap Setsuko, and then really after regionals, just Setsuko is number 1. And then all of a sudden, Replay, who was kind of this 4th, 5th kind of player for a lot of people, or for some people, has won World. The question I have is this enough to put Replay over the hump and make him first?
I think there was a very similar situation. Or, no, it's like slightly similar. Where if you remember Goose in what set did he go to Worlds? Was it 6?
6.
Yeah. He had a really, really bad set 6 in like a kind of mid set 6.5 until regionals, and then until Worlds, where he like got to the final lobby, and then all of a sudden he was like really, 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 really high in the power rankings after like doing poorly the whole set. And I love Goose, right? And he's a very good player. He was very good. But I think with like power rankings being supposed to be representative of like an entire set's worth of performance, I think like similar to how I wouldn't put Goose maybe as high as he was in that power ranking. As much as I love Goose, I don't think I could put Replay first. I would definitely like he's been, and that's not to say that he had a poor set 6 or set 8 or 8.5, right? Because he was very good the entire time. But I think Setsuko was just better the whole time until Worlds, right? And which is why I probably put Setsuko first and then Replay second.
Man, okay, I have a lot of thoughts. I first want to just say that it's funny you bring up the Goose thing, because and this is maybe a hot take, more than my putting Soulish rank 1 in the early of set 6 and rank 2 in 6.5 when he didn't even play the game, I genuinely think my greatest failure as a Don't Talk If You Don't Know panelist was actually ranking Goose high at the end of set 6. That is actually the pick I made in the rankings that I think about most often when I think of like poor rankings.
It keeps you up at night.
No, and I say this as someone who obviously, like, Goose is an amazing player. He made final lobby in set 6 Worlds. You don't do that by mistake, right? Like, obviously he's incredible. But he actually, I don't even know if you know this, was not even on 1 or maybe even 2 of the power rankings because he wasn't considered by most players to even be top 15. He had pretty much, like you said, like abysmal tournament performances in set 6, and then it was just the recency bias. It was too hard to like pass up. You see a really strong performance at regionals followed up with a final lobby, and it's so easy to forget that. But you make a really good point, and actually is making me rethink maybe the way I casted a ballot this time, because I did put Replay. I put Replay because in set 7, I was the only person to not put Rainplosion as rank 1 at the end of the set. I put Asa because I said that Worlds should not be factored in between 2 players when one makes Worlds and one doesn't, because the target to make Worlds is very small. Like, there's a lot of variance into who actually gets to attend Worlds, right? And personally, I don't think that gap was wide enough to say that Rain was significantly better than Asa, and that's why she made Worlds. I think that there was a world where Asa very well makes Worlds, playing just as well as he did when he didn't make Worlds. But this set, it was different because both Setsuko and Replay made Worlds, right? And so you kind of have to... Yeah, and they both made final lobby, and they both popped off days 1 and 2. They were. I don't know if they were 1-2 at the end of day 1, but I know they were 1-2 at the end of day 2, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really hard because even then it's like Setsuko is ahead going into Worlds. He makes final day. Is there anything more that he could have done, like to actually get rank 1? And the way I kind of felt was like Setsuko did the only thing that he could have done to not get rank 1 in a way, which is that he had a really, really poor showing when it mattered most. And again, it's hard to say this like as someone who's not nearly as good as them. And I'm not a challenger player, but I don't think that Setsuko got 10 points over 5 games just because of variance. Like, I don't think so. Especially like, coming out of the 12
I think
games
he was
before,
really nervous.
Yeah, I think that's super fair, right? And like that's what you're saying before too. Like that makes sense. And to me, it's hard to ignore that when replay carries the momentum of the last 2 days and dominates on the final day. And the way he won, like there's so much spectacle to it. It's NA's first world championship. It's heads up between NA and China in the final fight. Like, it was so insane. It's hard to ignore all of those things. And maybe it is recency bias, but it does feel, it feels heavy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's hard to ignore.
No, I get that. It does. I feel like I would say that maybe Replay was like the better competitor, but not the better player. Like, I feel like he did better at the like, I don't think Replay was better at TFT than Setsuko this set. But I do think that Replay, he played better when it mattered, right? At the very end of the set. He did what he had to do. He was like a more consistent competitor. But yeah, I guess it depends on how you want to look at it, right? Because a power ranking, you should take into account both those things, I think. Both how well they are as a competitor, how they can do in the clutch, as well as, how good they are just in general, right?
Well, this conversation reminds me of something that I first thought of back when I started tracking the stats. I kind of got flamed by a lot of like the top players because it was like, oh, he's talking about the stats, but like this data is fake. Tournaments are too small of sample size, blah, 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 blah. And one of the ways that I justify looking at data in TFT, especially at the end of the set, is that data is descriptive, not prescriptive, right? Like it tells you what happened, but it doesn't tell you what's going to happen next. Yeah. And so I think it actually does work really well in this context when if the prompt is, you are looking at a timeline of TFT set 8 and 8.5, and you have to pick a random point in time and then tell me who is most likely to be the best player at that point in time. It's probably Setsuko, right? Like, and that actually, because I did put replay, but as I'm thinking about this now, like the argument for Setsuko feels stronger and stronger, right? Because like that I think is a very fair prompt. If you had to choose who goes to Worlds based off of any random point in time during Set 8's lifespan, I think it's probably always going to be Setsuko or Dish Soap. To be fair, though, it's biased towards personalities. It's biased towards popularity, and it's biased against up-and-comers because they haven't had the opportunity to prove themselves. So it's not perfect either way.
Yeah, I think it's a tough conversation in terms of like actually finding an answer that everyone would be happy with. I don't know if there is an answer that everyone would be happy with, right? But I think we can solidly say that like Replay and Setsuko both are absolute beasts, or I would say bouses. What is that? Yeah, they're both very good, and like I think there's a lot of ways to say that like there are like arguments for either one of them being the best player of the set. So they're both just like so good at TFT.
My only hope is that it's not unanimous. I hope that it is contested between Setsuko and Replay for the rank 1 spot. And I hope that people...
It should never be unanimous, I don't think.
No. I mean, it was almost unanimous last set. It definitely was not... Who was rank 1 at the end of the set in set 6? Was it Goobums?
It was Goobums, yeah. It was Goobums, Ramblin'... It was either Goobums, Ramblin'... No, Goobums, Milk. It was Goobums, Milk, Ramblin', me, Setsuko, I think. Or maybe Setsuko, me, I don't remember. But it was definitely... It was Goobums first, and I think it was Milk. It was like the people who went to Worlds.
Set 6
like,
was definitely
it's
much
always
more contested than Set 7 and even Set 8, I would say, for like rank 1. And mainly, because like what you're saying, it's like it's about who goes to Worlds. The difference with this set was the people who went to Worlds were also the people who performed the best the entire season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like even in Set 6, it's like Goose, who had a poor Set 6, but really tightened it up at the end, got to go to Worlds. Even Goobums, he got first at the Zon Cup, if I remember, in the final day. But outside of that, I'm pretty sure he had pretty weak showings. So it's like we're not having one player or two players dominate.
He at least got to the final day of he was like totally, he was super smurfing the final day of Innovator Cup until he had like one bad game and he just kind of tilted out. But he definitely, I think he was like pretty consistent. He was consistently good. I think he wasn't like winning everything, but he was definitely consistently good.
Sure. I guess it's more like it wasn't like Setsuko and Dish Soap of this set where they were both averaging below 3.5 all set long, and then Setsuko makes it to Worlds, right? And Replay and Weijin were kind of hot on their tails with, I think Weijin was kind of like 3.5, 3.6, and then Replay was like 3.7-ish. And then after regionals, Replay joined them in that same group. So it's like this set, I think, is definitely going to be the set we'll look back on where until we win Worlds again, I think this will always be considered.
You mean in Set 9?
In Set 9, that's right. Until next set. This is going to be the set where I think we will actually think that we sent most of the strongest players in the region. You know what I mean? And even
I agree with that.
Like Jukyu was obviously the wild card, but the man popped off at regionals and absolutely deserved his spot.
Yeah, no, for sure. He had such a good regional performance.
Yeah.
We set up a very, very strong lineup.
Sorry, I'm taking a look real quick at all of at some of the takes coming in just to see what people are talking about. But all right, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up Set 8. And so this will actually be, I think, the end of the chapter. We're probably never going to talk about Set 8 again. So I want to open the floor.
What was Set 8 again?
Let's both give some parting thoughts or some final words to Set 8 before we close this book.
I don't like hackers. And I also don't like bugs. But you know what? I will say
like Set 6.
I think Set 7 and Set 8 were kind of like a kind of almost dark history in TFT, right? Like it was kind of like I felt like Set 7 in particular, like a lot of people were unhappy with, and then like Set 8 kind of it bled into that with like some balance issues and like some hacker issues, some like bugs and stuff. But I feel like Set 8 was definitely like it showed that like we're able to really claw our way up out of the ashes. Like the dev team did a really good job of trying to deal with everything, the problems as they came in. Definitely had some really fun patches as well. I think the end of Set 8.5 was actually really, really good, right? Like it took a while to get there, but like it ended on a really, really positive note. And I feel like, Set 7 and Set 8 were like a slightly dark history in the TFT timeline, but it leads to better shores, to brighter tomorrows.
Set 7 and Set 8, interestingly enough, are the least I've ever played TFT. And maybe
Winky dink.
maybe for the better. Pretty much every game, I would say like 95% of the games I played of 8.5 were just on my phone while I was like in the car or like after I was
pooping.
Very, very, very short game. I will say I didn't get to explore Set 8.5 very much. But even though I haven't gotten to experience TFT the same capacity that I have in previous sets, I think that the big picture of TFT is really trending upward. And I think that on a competitive level, Set 8 was really hype. And there were some awesome moments. We got to see Setsuko finally win his tournament, his first tournament. Dish Soap came out and finally got to really get those tournament performances he's been looking for the last two sets. I got to watch one of the coolest openers I've ever seen, which was you playing Trade Sector, reroll, and playing a totally different board. One Ezreal. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And on top of that, we had TC3, which was a really, really fun celebration.
That was a great event
of the regional community. So, and I
Summit as well,
and Summit.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I don't know that I'm allowed to say it yet. I'm allowed to say that I got to go to the Riot campus. I got to go to the Riot studio and do some TFT stuff that isn't out yet, but eventually will. I think I'm allowed to say that. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that.
You shaved Mort's head.
That's right. I shaved Mort's head. So it's been a really cool couple months of TFT, and 8.5, I truly did hardly know ye, but 'twas a pleasure. And so moving on to set 9, the next
Mort
set
has hair, right?
Mort has hair.
I can't imagine Mort's head, like Mort's facial hair. Yeah, no, he has hair. He's definitely not bald.
He has short hair.
Short hair,
long beard. Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, okay. I just always focus on the beard when I look at Mort, or like I look at Mort, or think about Mort, or dream about Mort. You know, I lovingly stroke my picture of Mort.
It's just eyes, mouth, and beard, and nothing else. Just a floating.
Yeah, like everything like, above the eyes, I just don't register.
That's right. Also, last thing before we move on to set 9, because this is where I had it in the run of show, is talking about the Soju documentary. Because I guess that's the other kind of big thing that happened. I know we talked about it at the opening of the show, but in case you're just joining us now, last week we released the k3soju documentary that I worked on with Medify. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really glad we finally got it out into the open. Appies mentioned earlier that I got to show him and Nature's, and I think maybe one other person, some of like the preview of it at Summit, and to see people actually react to it. I saw Trajan. Do you know Trajan TFT or Trajan TC? I think it is now. He made a react video of him watching it and like giving his thoughts. And I've never had anyone do that to a piece of content I made before. And so
that's an honor. You're like almost in TikTok reaction space.
I really felt this outpouring of love from the TFT scene. So I don't want to sit on that too long, but I just want to thank everyone for all the love that they gave for the piece. And hopefully it's not the end.
If you haven't.
Yeah. And if you haven't already seen it, you can use the command exclamation point soju. I did exclamation point sujo. Well, anyway, someone else got it. Yeah, exclamation point sujo does nothing. Exclamation point soju will bring you to the doc. And you can hang around after the episode. I'm going to do a watch. Everyone, I'm sorry, podcast listeners. Everyone in chat is just replacing the vowels of Soju's name. So after the stream today, after Hyrule Radio, I'm going to go through and do a viewing of the documentary, and I'll give you all some insight and some behind the scenes stories about how it actually got made and some of the crazier things that happened. But yeah,
the director's cut.
Yeah, behind director's commentary. That's right.
Right. I guess director's cut would just be longer scenes. Right? Yeah. Okay. Which I do have many scenes that never got put anywhere, but they're not like interesting enough to just release as deleted scenes. So I don't know. Maybe one day I will make a director's cut. Yeah. We'll see. All right. Set 9, Runeterra Reforged. It's out on PvE. It's crazy. There's a lot going on. Lots of people can't play PvE yet. Everybody is watching. It feels like the popularity of this set on PvE is higher than what we've seen in the last couple, right? Ever. Yeah, no, it's been like the queues the first couple of days, like, no one could get on at all. And now there's like this, the queues are so big, like the it's so popular now that people have to use, like there are some accounts that are just like unable to like connect to the PvE because it's so full, and like I don't know what dictates what accounts aren't able to, but like mine, for example, can't. So I'm like on my third separate account trying to like get games in. It's been crazy. You know, the people love it. It's been like the reception to set 9 has been insane. Like the amount of people trying it is kind of ridiculous. Which it might be partially because it was like it's a return to like base League of Legends stuff. It's all base skins. It's all it's all like, the synergies and stuff are all like places from League lore, and it's very, very cool. There's all kinds of new mechanics. There's I think this is probably the biggest reason people are so excited for it is Legends. Do you want to talk about Legends, do Nick?
Yeah. So I'll break down what it does. And so just for context, I got to play on the preview event, so I've played a handful of games, but I have not played any PvE, and I really have hardly gotten to watch. So Appies, you're probably going to drive most of the conversation on set 9, but I'll break down. So Legends, before the game starts, you can choose a legend which will alter one of your augments every single time that an augment is offered. And they're all catered to whichever legend it is that you choose. So for instance, you may choose something like Tom Kench, where all of the augments that he gives you are going to be tailored towards having more money. So you may be getting things like AFK or Rich Gets Richer or Hedge Fund, one of the new prismatic augments that's pretty insane, where you've it's uncapped interest.
It's at 10. It got capped at 10 now because you can make interest up to 100 gold, because it was ridiculous before.
Yeah. And so that's Tom Kench, and then there's other ones like Ezreal, where it's all about items, Draven, where it's all about killing units, Earth, where it's all about getting emblems and things like that. Yeah,
TF, you reforge your items every round. Veigar, you get like a ton of bonuses for like being an AP carry, like all kinds of like spell crit. And basically what it is so it gives you a fallback option. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the context of like you seeing people's play styles and what units they buy and what comps they like to play. But what this says is it gives it almost like a roguelike feel, or like even more of that. That lets you add even a little more personality into the game. Because, if you're a person who really likes econ augments, now you can guarantee that you can play on econ augments every single game if you want. You just pick TK, right? If you are a guy who's like, oh my god, Pandora's items, holy shit, I love this. I love having BIS everything. Then you can just load in with TF and get BIS everything. You might be dead at 3-2, but you can greed your items all you want and reroll every round. There's something for everyone. There really is. Like, there's so many different cool ways to play the game. The thing is, like, all these options, you could hit all three of the same augments not playing the legend, right? But the fact that you can do it with consistency means that you can have this fallback option very consistently that it's going to draw a lot of people to the game, because it just makes it so you can play your favorite stuff consistently, right? You can, again, if you just love money, which a lot of people who play TFT love money and love gambling, you can sit there full open, get guaranteed AFK or Get Richer or hedge fund, and just make tons and tons of cash. It's it's crazy.
And you know what? Something I thought about was, even with because my first thought when I see like legends and it's like, forced augments, is open fort players. That was like my first thought, because it's like, okay, well, now the people who want to play open fort are always going to be taking, well, what are they going to take?
Is actually, or right,
but it's like
a couple.
But that's the point. It's like there's a couple, right? And that's really cool that open fort players can take Tom Kench for econ. They can take Vlad for stats on lower health. They could take Pangu for Tiny Titans or Metabolic. They could take I think there's like one other one that I was thinking.
Yi has some like good comeback stuff too.
Yeah, some like ramping stuff like per round. So it's really cool where even the players who may want to play one style actually have a lot of variation, where they themselves can either theory craft or limit test. And I think it actually allows for small optimizations to really come out. And I know Jirachi is in chat right now. I feel like Jirachi is like the kind of player I would imagine is going to test out a ton of different legends to see the small optimizations based on what degen 2 cost or 1 cost is meta, like which legend they may be flexing between. And that's like a really cool thing, because I think it does add variance and skill expression in even like this more like open fort style of play, which personally I'm a big fan of as well.
And I think a lot of the worry around legends is that like people will find like the one best legend that like is way stronger than other ones, and like everyone will play that one legend. But the thing is, I think at least so far, I feel like there's a lot of room to play different ones, right? So, for example, if everyone wants to play, like, let's say, like, an open fort one's very strong. If everyone tries to play an open fort one, then you can just play one of the ones that has a strong early game, right? Like, one of the ones that gives you a bunch of items, one of the ones that gives you, like, Caitlyn, for example, gives you, like, 2-star units and all kinds of early game power. Then you play that, and you just guarantee a top 4, right? And there's, like, there's ways, like, you're not punished for not picking a specific one, I don't think. Like you can definitely play whichever one you want and be okay. I don't think necessarily they're all like the exact same power level, But I think they're close enough where like you won't just lose the game for not picking Vlad or TK or whatever.
Yeah, I also feel like it's got to be. I imagine it'll be easier to balance by the time the set really matters. Like by the time a tournament comes, I imagine they will have enough data on all of the augments that you're guaranteed to see that they would probably tone them down, where I imagine that like in a perfect world, the offered augments are like a step below every other augment in strength, right? Like, because even now, I think, aren't like the second and third going to always be weaker?
No, so what it is, so it's, so the every single legend augment is a little bit weaker in value than any other
every single one, not just the second.
Yeah. So even the 2-1-1 is like weaker than, because they don't want, because the thing with consistency has to come like a little bit less power, right? That's also something to try to curb the like idea of one legend being stronger than everything else, and then it gets this whole thing where everyone just plays the exact same one. So theoretically, what they want is I don't think this is necessarily true right now, but they want every legend augment to be a little bit weaker than every non-legend augment. Which makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, because it's at the end of the day, it's like even going back to the whole comfort, like the idea of comfort in TFT is that if X composition or X augment has a average placement of 4.5, but it's my comfort comp that I know I can pilot better than the average player, it should be stronger in my hands because I know how to play it and I know the optimizations to make it an above average line or an above average stat augment compared to its stat. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me, where even if it is slightly weaker, that comfort and that consistency and the practice that you've had on that augment will probably make it about as strong as anything else because the line,
comfort really makes a difference, right? Look at replay with his AD Infinity Team lines, or like Ramblin' Arcanist lines in set 6, right? Like there's definitely something to be said for how much comfort actually affects how well you perform. So. I
will say, cool. Just to call back to our last episode, there was, or what was it? It might have been ours, or it might have been Don't Talk If You Don't Know. I actually can't remember. Someone asked Replay about mech, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like playing mech." And they were like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, those 2 units that you suck up could just be 2 Ramesses." I feel like, and now that we've actually seen Worlds play out, it just makes so much sense, and I love that. So yeah, it feels to kind of sum up that conversation, I think it feels really good to have legends. I think that like having this play style, the line that players can, play something they're more familiar with, is going to be much more digestible for viewers. And also it's going to give one extra rung for fans to like hold on to something about the players that they like. And I think that's really cool. The other thing about Runeterra Reforged is there are not 1, but 2 set mechanics this time around is the portals. So the opening carousel is no longer in the game, which actually in of itself would probably be a great change for a lot of people.
Dude, I literally, my whole playstyle is based on not being able to get the item I want. I'm opening carousel because I'm so bad at it.
So instead of the opening carousel this time around, we start the game with 3 different region portals, each themed around a different region of Runeterra. Each region has certain effects, which kind of I'm blanking. I know like Noxus are going to be... Yeah, it's going to be like Galaxies, but like... I know Noxus is more about like battle power, right? And like,
are there themes like that? I didn't realize that.
There's a through line for every region. Like Bandle City is just like craziness, I think. And
okay, wait, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of like crazy, wacky, quirky effects. Like there's one where everyone gets a crown you can put on a unit and it gives a bunch of stats. But if that unit dies, you instantly lose the fight.
Dude, I saw you streaming that game. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but at first I was like, what is this crown he keeps talking about? Because I never actually, I normally just have it on. I hear the audio. I'm not watching, and I tune in and I see like 5 units up. Like you are about to win a fight. Like the enemy, I think it's an enemy Azir or something, is like the only unit left, and it kills 1 unit on your board, and you lose a fight despite having 4 other units left. Insane. I hate that, but I'm sure a lot of people love it.
Yeah, no, I think I won that game in the exact opposite fashion. Like they had a bunch of units left, and my Kale randomly sniped out Azir, and I won the game because Azir had their crown. And then the cool part too is that you get to vote on the galaxies. So like there's 3 options at the start of every match, and you just walk over which one you want. And rather than a majority vote, it's a democracy thing. So it randomly picks one of the 8 people, one of the 8 people chose. So it can be like if 7 people stand on one and 1 person stands on another, you can still get the one, but like you have a pretty good chance of getting what the group wants. So it's pretty cool. It's very cool. So there's like a little bit of political aspect, like, hey, I'll FF at 4th if you pick this, if you stand on this with me.
Wait, are any of the portals like insanely troll? Or is there anything that's just like
I mean, there's one that makes overtime start at 20 seconds instead of 30 seconds, which is kind of insane. There's some definitely.
Oh, that's one of the Vandal City ones. Yeah.
There are definitely some wonky ones. There's one that guarantees super prismatic. There's one that makes it so there's no augments. There's one that just randomizes everything.
Oh, dude, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the final game of Worlds, and one person is going to choose the triple prismatic portal. I guarantee you, quote me on this right now, that is going to happen at Worlds. I know it. And it's going to be like the one random European player who has no shot of winning. That's what it's going to be.
Because Europe would never win.
That's right. That's why the story's believable.
No, but like, and then on top of portals and stuff, there's like all kinds of new augments. Like almost the entire augment roster got switched out to be new augments. So hero augments are gone, except for like there's like 2 quote unquote hero augments that like make Set and Kassadin really strong, but they're not like they're not actual hero augments. Them? Yeah, there's only ones for them. Like there's one that makes Kassadin it's basically a hero augment for Kassadin. Yeah, and there's one that's like a hero augment for Set to make them carries, which is really cool. And there's just a couple here and there, and there's like trait augments back in, so like augments that'll say like, hey, now juggernauts do all this on top of being a juggernaut, or like have this bonus effect, which are taken out.
Interesting. So they're like transformative, like they make them, because I'm assuming you're saying Kassadin and Set are not carries, and then with this augment they become carries. There's
a lot of transformative augments, which is really cool, because
that's really fun.
Here, outside of hero augments, there was nothing transformative, probably because it'd be a little broken if you had like a transformative trait augment with a hero augment in like the same trait, right? But I like that they're back. It's gonna be fun. Though there is, I was telling you about this before, there's this one fucking augment that I played against today that is the most obnoxious augment. So to give you some context, Darius is back in the set. He's a 3-cost and he dunks on people. So naturally I've been playing Space Jam in the background, like full opening into reroll Darius, and just like going with Space Jam playing, right? And so he is a Noxus unit, right? And so I played a game today. It was a viewer game, and there's a guy sitting in 8th place, and he has this augment called, I think it's called Petricite Chains, which is the Silas. It's the name of the Silas spell or something. And this augment says your Demacia units do 15% more damage, and 35% more damage to Noxus units.
Wait, what?
Like this fucking augment just says, hey man, oh, you were trying to play Noxus this game? Yeah, actually, fuck you. I don't like you. Like, wait.
Way.
What? Like, what? Okay, it's to Noxus units or units that have 100 mana or more. But like, what the fuck? I felt targeted.
That's incredible, dude. Yeah, that is like the streamer nerf. That's actually just like the grief streamer augment.
Like I do not know what would, particularly because Darius is in this synergy, so I will be playing this synergy a lot because I don't know if anyone knows. I have a lot of favorite units of all time, and they go back and forth. I think my 2 favorite units of all time though, 100% are, one is Divine Warwick, outside of Warwick shenanigans. 2 is any 3 iteration of 3-cost Darius that just dunks on people and gets resets. And so I cannot help myself. I will play that unit to death every single set he's in. And the fact that there's this fucking augment that says, every time you play Darius, I want to do 20% more damage to you because you play Darius. Like, what? There is no world.
That's insane.
Where that is okay.
Wait, did he just like smoke you for the rest of the game?
I went ape. I played him once and I beat him.
Wait, so how good is Darius? Can you like open fort into like
No.
Darius on 3-6 or something? Is it?
No, you can't.
Oh, I guess with gold difference too, right?
So
the XP difference.
What I tried to do all day, I've theory crafted what it actually is. Because what I tried to do all day was I just played TK, and then I took an econ augment on 2-1, then I full opened until level 7 and tried to play Darius, and I missed every time, and it was not fun. But so what I realized though, if you remember Forgotten from set 5, what people would do is they would open stage 2-ish. They just hold Forgotten units, and they'd roll down on level 6 to get 6 Forgotten, and they just streak forever, right? So what Noxus says is a synergy is that every time you beat an opponent, that opponent is like they are on your shit list. Like you have officially beaten them for the rest of the game, and you get a 10% boost to the stats from Noxus for the rest of the game for every opponent that you've beaten at least once, or that any opponent that's dead. And so it gives like HP, AP, and AD. And so what I realized is that I think the way to play it is that and there's also like there's a lot of really good units in it, in that so Cat is another 3 cost that is a like really good AP unit. Darius is an AD unit this set, not an AP unit. And then like there's Swain as a tank, and there's like other juggernauts you can play as a tank. Like Nasus can be a tank. He's not in Noxus, but basically what you do is you can do a very similar thing to Forgotten, I think, where you play some kind of I think he's probably going to ideally be a strongest board augment, like something that gives you a bunch of items like Ez or items like Urgot, or not Urgot. What's his name? Ornn. I say Ornn. Yeah, Ornn gives you Ornn items as a legend. Or even like something like Earth, who gives you like a bunch of spats and stuff. And then what you do is you just open-ish stage 2, just hold Noxus units, because the thing is it's a 3-6-9 as a synergy, as the breakpoints, but the first 6 units in it are 1, 2, and 3 costs. There's 2 1 costs, 2 2 costs, 2 3 costs. So what you can do is you can open-ish on stage 2, and then on 3-2 you roll down, you hit 6 Noxus, then you streak till whenever you beat everyone once. Matchmaking, more dog.
Sure.
If he lets you play everyone, and then you just have all these extra Noxus stats, and you just like reroll. Then you reroll on 7. I think that's how you actually play it.
That's interesting. My like first gut reaction is like, well, because I'm trying to remember, because in set 5 you were still playing reroll Cat, right? Is that what it was like when you were playing Forgotten? Like you'd either reroll Cat or you'd play Draven at level 8.
No, you play Vayne 1.
I guess it depends on the patch. There were like so many different Forgotten.
Yeah,
patches.
it was almost always just Vayne carry, and then like you could play Cat carry if you hit, but like it was almost always just like playing items on Vayne.
My issue is like, okay, well if you're rolling to 10 on 6, it is a lot harder to reroll on 7, right? Because you're like tanking your econ unless you're actually just like full streaking for the next.
Well, the idea is that you just be winning, but you probably you roll below 10. I think you actually just roll until you're the strongest person in the lobby by far on 3-2, and then you just win. Because the thing is, you get so many stats as well from having Systemacia in that like you will just you level 7, you play like anything, and then the thing is, if you have a spat from Earth as well, it becomes way easier. You don't have to hit one of the 3 costs, and there's just like all kinds of cool ways to like dip in and out of the synergy.
When I played,
until some guy takes the plus 35% damage to Noxus units augment. Sorry.
So in set 5, I played a lot of Nocturne, and the way I kind of gauged how strong Nocturne was on any given patch was at 4-7, how stable is my level 7 board. And that's kind of like a good indicator, because most of the time you're not hitting your 3-star 3 cost by the end of stage 4, right? Like most of the time it's coming after that. The idea is like, how much health do you still have, and how much are you able to maintain up to that point in time? Because once you hit 5-1, you're really trying to hit as soon as possible. So that makes sense to me if like you feel like Darius and a 6 Noxus board is able to stabilize you through stage 4, right? But like,
I think if you have items for Cat in Darius, it can work.
Okay, yeah. I'm down. I mean, I also played a ton of Space Jam in set 3. That was like pretty much all fun. I played. It's such a good comp. So I'm down.
Well, he was a 2 cost in set 3, wasn't he?
He was a 2 cost.
He was a 3 cost in set 4.
Yep.
With Fortune.
I liked the set 3 version a little better personally.
He was cool.
And then 3.5, like you just couldn't play it anymore because they got rid of Cassidon, or whatever. I think it was Cassidon, something like that.
It was
anyway.
Sad.
I'm down. To what?
Huh?
What did you say?
Oh, I said it was sad when.
I thought you said it was Zed, and I was like, it definitely wasn't Zed.
No, it was not Zed. Spirit Zed was the thing though.
Okay. Portals, augments, legends. Am I forgetting anything about set 9? I feel like we've hit most of the different bullet points, right?
I think that's it. Yeah, it's looking fun. I mean, as long as I take out that Noxus augment, so I can play Darius unhindered, then we're good to go. We're right as rain. Good set.
I don't know if he's still here. I know Blind was actually in the caller queue and wanted to hop in. Blind, if you're still watching, this is actually a great time to come on, because I know what you had was a little bit less about like set 9 specifically, but kind of about onboarding the new player in general. So if you are still around, feel free to hop into one of the caller queues, and I'll bring you on whenever you get in there. But until then, there is something else we want to talk about, because obviously we have all this new stuff with set 9. We have not seen the competitive calendar for set 9 yet, but something they have announced in the competitive landscape is the set 10 LAN event taking place in Las Vegas on December 8th through 10th. Yes. It's going to be a 512-person open bracket event, meaning anybody can enter, but it is going to be priority given based on set 9 ladder.
Yep.
This is like the most exciting news TFT has ever received. Apart from like maybe Summit is like the other like most exciting news.
Like TC4 when that gets announced. But
true. Yes. What was your first reaction to all this?
Check my bank account, see how I get to LA. Yeah. Dude, it's gonna be so cool. I can't believe they actually like they're doing it. Like TFT esports is like TFT is a thing. It's just growing and like set 9 is having such a good reception, and like PD is so packed you can't even get on. There's a LAN announced for set 10. Like this is the dream. Like TFT is hitting the big time. Tell you what, feels good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and actually Kane is talking about it in chat right now, that I hope streamers will set goals for raising money for TFT Con, which is the, for anyone listening, is the name that people are kind of giving this big tournament for set 10 TFT Con. I think that's a really great point, Kane, because it would feel so incomplete if there are all these names in TFT that just don't have the means to make it, because it's expensive. You go to Las Vegas, you're there for a weekend. Like, I imagine Las Vegas is not a super cheap place to spend a weekend. Even if you are like a relatively frugal person and not trying to like go out and do all this crazy stuff, like it's just expensive to fly out there, hotel, whatever the entry or venue fee is going to be, which is a whole nother discussion. I know like Bryce and Milk, when they were talking about the conversation with Sherman, we're trying to predict what that venue entry fee would be. I'm not exactly sure. I would be surprised if the entry fee itself is very high. I feel like Riot is just going to like dump money of their own into the prize pool. I would be shocked if they were relying on entry fees in order to feed the actual prize pool. But still, it's an expensive weekend. So it would be, I think like Appies, obviously you're like the kind of person who you should 100% have like sub goals or donation goals or all that kind of stuff to like make it out there. Cause it would feel so bad if we have a huge international LAN event and you were not there.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah. Hopefully both make it out and we can have a good time.
Oh yeah, I'm
gamble on TFT instead of on the casino.
That's right. Yeah, I feel like Appies and I are definitely two like.
We would not go to
on like the spectrum of like TFT between like a wholesome and DGen. We're like definitely closer to the which side did I say was wholesome? This one. We're definitely more on the wholesome side.
Yeah. I feel like we just be in a hotel room playing Melee.
yeah. I know. Oh man, but still, like, I really do hope that people, because you know that's the other thing to think about is there's so many people that have never experienced TFT on LAN, and I'm not suggesting that like the TC events are anything like TFT Con, but the camaraderie and like being able to go out to the diner with your friends after TC is like such a fun experience that I look forward to every time, and it's exciting that like so many people are finally going to be able to experience that kind of stuff in TFT.
No, it's gonna be revolutionary for a lot of the community. I think that people are gonna go there. They're gonna be like, "Holy crap! This is what we want." And then hopefully it inspires Riot to do more, right? To do more and more LANs. Maybe get a LAN world at some point, like a LAN regionals. Can you imagine,
dude? Oh, we were so close.
God, it'd be so good.
Set 7 having the casters in studio, like even kind of going back to the Soju doc, like the fact that I was able to cut to like Bryce and Frodan and Cass on the desk freaking out about Soju, like, oh, these moments in TFT history hit so much harder when things are on land.
Yes.
Like, and even going to the TC events, like our events are not that hype. They're friendly. They are like about having memories together as a community.
Good time playing TFT together.
And even then, it's like, think about all the moments that we
Popping
have
off.
that are because they're on land. Yeah, like Kevin, Ramkev
He's
screaming constantly. Like Pokygom having 300 gold and like walking around the venue and like eating his snacks and stuff. Like everyone holding up their Dragon Ball Z energy drinks from the Five Below next door. Like there's all these
It's
really
so good.
fun moments.
LAN really changes a lot for any community, for any esports thing. So if if we can get to a point in TFT, a point? What is this point? A point in TFT where like regionals is like Riot, flying the players out to go compete in the big studio, and there's like interviews and like all kinds of fun like little pieces of content to play in between. Like that would be so cool. And the big thing is that that's going to inspire some people to want to get in on it too, right? Because like if I'm an upcoming player and I see that like, oh man, if I do well enough in this tournament, like I'm gonna get to play in the studio with like meet all these other players. Like that is so much motivation.
Yeah,
and it's gonna just make the scene flourish for sure if it becomes a thing.
I really believe that TFT is on the cusp of something great, and I think the next year is going to be the testing ground for Riot to say, probably after set 9, I guess it's more like December onward is going to be Riot's time to say like, hey, if we put some money in this, if we help with some of the legwork, will the community really bite and support this scene that we've had going for a while? And man, I really hope it works because seeing TFT pop off would be so crazy.
We're right there. We really are. It's just that one last step. Not the last couple of steps, maybe, but
I'm also curious to see if, like, with this investment into like the TFT competitive landscape, if we're also going to see Riot start to invest in like tools for the tournament spectating experience. Obviously, like the problem of everybody wants to watch their favorite player stream instead of the main broadcast is such an interesting problem. And I think Riot's really going to have to be creative to find a solution, but I still think that is like a very key part that they need to solve if they want to see TFT grow, because our viewership is there. It's just not on the main broadcast.
Yeah,
it's scattered. Yes.
Yep. You got to bring all the clans together and make one big thing somehow. I don't know how. That's their job. No, my job is to play the game.
all that to say, to kind of wrap up this set 10 thing, is it's going to be so cool to see all these people in person. We got to see some people at Summit, but so many people we didn't get to meet yet. Everybody try and make it out to TFT Con in December. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, we didn't have a ton of takes coming in, but we did have Blind. I mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to bring him on because he had a pretty interesting question, and we'll talk about his take, and then we'll probably wrap up after that. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Blind is here. Blind, if you want to unmute yourself and let me know where you're calling from.
Hey everyone, so glad to be here. Thanks so much for taking my call. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada here.
Some deja vu.
That's right.
Weird.
Deja vu. All right. Now, Blind, if anyone does not know who you are, we know that you were super involved in the Discord, the official TFT Discord. And for anyone who doesn't know this part, Blind was basically my producer for High Roll Radio when we first started. He workshopped all this stuff with me and, helped us kind of figure out exactly where we were going. And I haven't talked to you in very long, Blind. So first off, it's great to hear from you. But what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool being on this side of the fence here, since usually I'm on the other side helping you produce. So yeah, what's funny enough is I actually left everything TFT to go work at another game studio and couldn't stay just due to conflict of interest. But a lot of what we talk about and what I spend my time about is figuring out how are we going to get a mass adoption for our game, and what are the avenues we should probably look at. And one thing that I think it always comes down to when it comes to player adoption is really about the support of content creators. And I think you actually have like a pretty interesting angle on this, Gangly, where Not only did you just do the Soju doc, congratulations on that. It was great. I watched it. But as well, like, you're also from the Smash community, and I think the Smash community is like an interesting case study where it's a game that more or less is essentially disowned by its own creators, not even fed into, not even promoted, almost completely like community based, but for some reason it's still driving as a cult classic, and time again you see like these documentaries on Smash and how the players who create content and guides like are almost keeping the game alive and the community alive by being really that heartbeat. So I'm curious, like, what your take is on how do you think, content creators really take a play in growing TFT as we're seeing now?
That's a great question. Love that. I love that, Blind. Thank you for the take. And Appies, I don't know, do you want to go first? Because I feel like I have a lot to say, but if
you go for it. You go for it.
I think that when I look at oh wow, hey CLE, thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate that, man. When I think about content in TFT, actually, and this thing Appies and I have talked about a lot. I look at one of my good friends in the Melee space. Turn Down for Walt is his name. If anyone who doesn't know who that is, he's a Melee content creator that does a lot of documentary stuff, but also covers these big moments, kind of flashy moments of not just Melee, but also Smash Ultimate, PM, other Smash or Melee adjacent games. And the role that Walt plays in that scene, I think, is so important because his goal is really, if I want to learn, if someone wants to learn about Melee in general, not about anything specific, just they want to learn about what this scene is, they know that they can go to his channel. And that kind of drives me to something I've been thinking about recently. And Appies, we were talking about this before the show, where I've even been asking myself, if somebody wanted to, or no, let me rephrase this. Who do I want to be in TFT? I think that's an important question for every single content creator in this space, because the reality is it's really hard to get people's attention. And I personally think that specializing in certain things is a really important job for every content creator, because it makes all of what you're doing so much more digestible, right? Like, and it even circles back to on the pro player side. Like when we're talking about, it's better when you put players in a box. It's better when you know Appies as the flex player who wants to play wacky boards that make sense and aren't just like the meta-defined builds. On the content side, to me, it's like, okay, well, maybe I am producing documentaries in TFT, and maybe Milk is making these like more lifestyle kind of like personality things. And then Dish Soap is the rank 1 player who's always posting VODs of like him just popping off and stomping on players. I personally feel like a very healthy landscape of content looks like a bunch of people who specialize in different parts of an ecosystem and are able to reach a very niche audience. And I think the hardest part about it is being satisfied with the fact that they're reaching that niche audience so that they can dig deeper into that. Because one struggle I find personally is that my content, I know it's niche, and I know that most people in TFT don't watch my content. And the question I have to ask myself is, am I okay with knowing that I'm not going to reach a larger audience because I believe in the content that I'm making? And I think that that's a really hard question because of like the nature of creator economy. And it's obvious it's something where like, if I was trying to go full time, could I still afford to do that? And I personally am not, that's not a goal of mine, but for many people it is. And so they have to kind of balance this act of wanting to do what they think is right for the community, wanting to do what they think is right for them, and at the same time trying to balance like staying relevant and like pushing the envelope and staying at the top of people's minds. And so I think that there's not a really great answer, but to me, I feel like it's the responsibility of the creator in each individual ecosystem to be responsible for a certain part of the game and finding what works for you and what role you play in the big picture. I know that was a lot of rambling, but I feel like I don't have a
good
great,
rambling,
concise way of saying all that. Appies, I don't know if you want to say anything.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think even from like the streamer perspective of content creation, right? It's like a very simple, you have to find your niche and you have to Particularly as like a small, like mid-sized streamer, like I know my niche is the people who don't want to mauled, right?
True.
And I'm okay with that, and that's kind of content I want to make, and that's I'm happy with that, and that's what I do. But you definitely have to know what you want to do, and you have to be okay with it, and you have to be willing to dig deeper into it. So.
Blind, I'm actually curious to hear your perspective, because as much as you're asking us, I feel like you are more qualified to talk about this than I am.
Yeah. So I think you're both right, and what I think TFT has going for it, that it very much is a what I call like a cult game. Like I think on a surface level, you can. I have some friends who like enjoy TFT, like haha, I'm just gonna click all the blue units, right? But I think you really like to enjoy the magic of TFT. You really have to get into it. You really have to drink that Kool-Aid and submerge yourself into and yeah, right? Like you really got to get into the nitty-gritty of it. And I feel like just because there is that interaction with TFT, I think we're going to be totally fine when it comes to people just really committing into what they love and enjoying it and just enjoying the process and the journey. So I don't think we're going to have really any problems on that front. I think it's just more like a matter of time. But what I'm more curious of is really like, what happens when we start to get more eyeballs and thus, the dollars come? I mean, what you did with the Soju doc was cool. But what happens like when we see 10 more of those, right? Well, like what happens when we see other creators getting more incentives to do things like that? I think like really that's going to be the next catalyst, right? I think prize pool was something that was up for debate. Like that was really like the first lever. But I think we're also getting there to the point where like the prize pool is at a level where an extra couple thousand like really isn't going to make that much of a difference. I think really the next growth of expansion will probably come from when we start seeing money pouring into creators supporting the scene.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point there, Blind, that increasing the prize pool a couple $1,000s is not going to make a difference, but pouring money into the creators will. That's I can't stress enough how important that is, because let me just say this, like I got to make the Soju doc as a job, right? Like I got to do that for work, which was an incredible blessing. Like I could not have asked for a better project to take on. And the reality is like my documentary is featuring people, maybe not Soju himself, but other adjacent players who, without them, the scene would not be able to survive. And despite that, they are not necessarily meeting ends meet in the way that they're hoping, because our scene is not one that really supports many people apart from the very, very top. And I can't stress enough that it is incredibly important that if TFT is going to be in a healthy space long term, I think that I don't know if it's Riot's responsibility to actually be able to support every creator or what have you, but I think that the esport landscape of TFT needs more creators to be able to sustain themselves, and not just the happenstance of them saying like, okay, well, I can afford to wait a little bit longer and maybe I'll get lucky. I think we just need to find a way to make more room for these creators to feel comfortable doing this full time. And this is definitely more of an Appy's kind of take than me. Sorry for like taking the floor there.
Oh, you're good. I totally forgot what they. I was just like sucked into your.
But basically, Blind was just saying that like it would be more impactful for the
Sorry,
landscape.
yeah, I remember now.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, okay, you got it.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can say it any better than you did. I think I don't know. I agree. I don't know if it's Riot's responsibility to like support every creator, right? But I think they're like certainly the next step is not extra few $1,000s in the competitive scene isn't going to make the next. I don't think that's going to be what makes little Timmy pick up a keyboard and to start playing TFT.
Right.
I think like being exposed to high quality content and to like kind of a lot of motivation behind it is going to be what makes little Timmy pick up the keyboard and play TFT. So
and I will say, like, even on the content side, I think that there is so much that we could be doing. And I don't want to like reveal my hand, because I'm working on a pitch right now that I'm trying to get off the ground. But I think that there's a lot of content that Riot could be taking advantage of that not only benefits Riot because of the eyes coming into the landscape, but also content that would really benefit some of the creators in our space to get more eyes on them so that they could find third-party monetary support through other means apart from Riot. I don't necessarily think it's Riot's responsibility to support these players on their own, but I do think that if Riot wants a healthy landscape in TFT, that they really need to be putting effort into raising their players and their, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like influencers and content creators up. So that's, hope that wasn't like too long-winded for you, Blind.
No, I actually love this conversation, and this is something I try to wrap my head around almost every day in regards to like my field. I don't want to divulge like too much about what I'm working on, but there's actually like an interesting case study in my industry where a notable strategy that's starting to come up for budding game studios is actually like approaching other content creators and giving them like one specific area for them to either report or create content on. And what happens is by only giving them like one angle, when you have like 5, 6, 7, 8 different creators all doing a different angle, it kind of creates this like puzzle piece of content that you learn through organically by when you watch one person's, whether it's a written content or whether like it's a video post, when you consume it, what happens is you get insights into one area, but when you consume somebody else's, which is like a completely different area now, so it's no longer the same information. It kind of compounds onto each other and like it enhances. And I think like I don't believe that that's Riot's responsibility. At the end of the day, they are a game studio, and games are extremely expensive to make and extremely difficult to make. So of course, for them, it's just, hey, let's keep the game afloat. Sure. Which we're starting to see like growing pains as well, like with PvE. But I think that's an interesting lever for them to possibly look down, because I know like early on when they did what was it, the creator program through League, where like you got the account with like all the skins. Like I think they're still open to doing things like that, but who knows? We're just speculating at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I know I can say like on my end from my experiences talking to people from Riot that they really do want, like the people I've spoken to, at least personally, they really want to do more. I think honestly, a lot of it comes down to like it's easier for Riot to support people who are doing cool things than it is for them to do it themselves, because with any large company, there's a lot of red tape, there's processes and blah, blah, blah. It's easier to be agile. And I'm not saying this, let me make this clear. My disclaimer is that like I'm not saying this as someone who doesn't work for Riot and I have no idea what I'm talking about, but this is just my personal experience, that it seems like it's easier for them to be more agile by supporting people who do cool things in the space than for them to just say like, hey, we want to do this, let's do it. Yeah. All right, Blind, we are going to take one last call before we wrap up for the night. So thank you so much for hopping in. It was great to talk to you again, man. Do you have anything you want to shout out?
No, just thanks so much for everyone who's here supporting the scene. 75 viewers, wow, we're doing great. Remember when we first started, we were just like struggling with 10?
Yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah, thank you to you, Gangly. Thanks to you, Spicy. Like, you guys are really just carrying the torch for TFT, and thank you for everything you guys do.
All right, thank you so much, man. We'll see you later.
See ya.
All right, now I'm gonna get one last caller in here before we wrap up for the day. He was in chat earlier. He is. Oh wait, I moved Appies. Huh? Wait, hold on. I just screwed up everything. I just moved Appies out of the Discord. Everything's fixed now.
Oh, I got you.
And Protroid is here. No, you're good, Appies, now. I fixed it. Protroid, where are you calling from? I am a mess today. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Listen, I've been dealing with the same smoke that you've been dealing with all day. So
That's right.
I'm also New Jersey, if that didn't give it away for folks who don't know. But boy, it's been a day, let me tell you.
Sure has.
I bet.
Right, what do you want to talk about, Protroid?
Well, I kind of want to build off of what Blind was talking about, actually, just because there are so many responsibilities just within a community in order to build it up to make it what we want it to be. Like, I know I'm kind of stealing your thunder there a little bit, because I think you said a very similar point to that during Blind's portion, but everyone does have a say in what a community is at the end of the day. We want to say who's going to be in it, who's a part of it, and just generally, it's our job, in my opinion, to make it as inclusive as possible. That's why I do everything I do with Aegis. It's why I did stuff with Compete League way, way, way back in the day, if folks want to dig that up or even remember whatever the hell that is. So I just sort of want to more piggyback on that, just to say, yes, it's everyone's job to make this community they want it to be, and we should be doing that. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think there's much of a contrarian take that either of us would want to take on this opinion. But
I'm not here to throw fire or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think, something I would definitely want to say, Protroid, and like I think great evidence of this is actually, and I feel like I talk about it every single week, is like every like 10 minutes, honestly, is the Tacticians Crowns events. Like, I think that even when you look at how an event like that comes together, so much of it is the merging of passions, right? Like, Protroid, for anyone who doesn't know, is our head of commentary for the TC stuff. He's the one that puts the commentary schedule together. He's the one that brings people in, heads up that whole part of it. I definitely, I'm interested in commentary. I would love to be able to do more of that kind of stuff, but I also recognize that that's a strength of Protroid's, right? And that's a specialization he has. And I think that there's a certain strength in being able to let go of the reins and let other people take over with where they specialize. That obviously we can see that on the content side, but I also think it's just like a general part of life that like applies to so many other parts outside like the actual like content sphere itself.
Some goat takes today, Nick.
It's definitely true. And I mean, like, I really do love working Tactician's Crown just a ton, not only because I can sort of gloat and say, oh, this is one of the first these are some of the first LAN events that we've seen post-COVID, or at least after the worst of COVID. So through all of that kind of together, we already have these amazing insights of what to expect when we see TFT coming in December, where I want to see folks running around IRL scouting. I want to see people just going, I want to hear Ramkid scream. I really hope he's there, because I want everyone to know that when you are watching, when you're watching the main broadcast at TC and you hear a noise in the background, 9 times out of 10, that's Kevin. Like, just plain and simple.
I love it. He always sits at a computer by the commentary desk as well. You guys have kind of claimed
he knows.
That section. Yeah. No, and so, sorry, Protroid, did you want to follow up with anything?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, it also kind of comes into, like, back to, like, what everyone's roles and responsibilities are. Like, for me, I kind of see myself as you said, that commentator perspective, where my job at Aegis is basically to say, hey, you want to learn how to commentate? Cool, I will teach you how to do that so you can commentate. Mm-hmm. And kind of through all of that, we're able to see a lot of amazing talent be able to come in through the scene. Like, say, for example, CLE, the person who raided you earlier, they started at Aegis. I remember they reached out to me just out of the blue, I think because Lawrence redirected them to me. And we had a phenomenal conversation about how to cast. He has really gotten a knack of it. I'm really happy we were able to bring him out for TC3. And I hope when TC4 happens, he'll be part of that conversation too. And it's the same thing with other folks in the scene, like Sir Blackp, who's in Brazil, that folks here might not know as well, but he's absolutely phenomenal on that scene. You also have the fact that there's Z-Boy Wonder, who started as is still a Twitch streamer, but really was able to just slide into casting and have that immediate knack for it. And then you even see a bunch of other folks like Purple Pouring and Yenwei, who are both familiar names if you follow the more professional circuit behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And from there, it is really great to see everyone just getting involved. So and I also want to sing praises of commentators too, because I gave you the time. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Sims is another person that needs to be shouted out. It is like so cool to see all these different people in TFT with specializations in different areas that, we can really point to. And yeah, you know what? Blind says in chat, the magic of this community is amazing, and it really is true. Oh man, I'm like feeling kind of nostalgic right now. And I don't even know exactly where it's coming from, but like this is the last time I'm going to talk about the TC events, but like the magic that feels, it is magic. Like to me, when I think about the coming together of this community, and it's like we're sitting down at the end of an event at a diner, and like, we're like telling jokes about the day and reflecting on how everything went, and we're dreaming about like what's going to happen next. Like the magic is there. And I know we're kind of diverging from like the original take now, but to kind of circle back, the beautiful thing about this scene is that we are the conglomerate of so many different talents and passions and people and interests. And to be able to see all of that come together is just so beautiful. Love this game.
Yeah. And the community is far broader than any of us could even imagine, right? Because, like, you know, there's so many different sections of it, so many different nooks and crannies, and like TFT just brings so many people together. It's really cool. It's very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Appies, you and I, we talked about, like, going into Summit, we're, like, friends, but not, like, super close, and then we, like, kind of meet up at Summit, and, like, all of a sudden, it's like, holy cow, like, how have I not been best friends with this guy? Like, my
right.
like
it's like we're college roommates or something,
yeah, like,
right?
There really is a certain magic about TFT that brings people together, and it's just so fun to, like, be able to capture that. So I'm really thankful for this scene. And Protroid, thanks for that, Bo. This is like a great way to kind of end the episode. So before you go, is there anything you want to shout out?
Well, I'm always here for feel good. I'm always here for hype up, as I think folks who follow me on twitter.com/Protroid are able to sort of know that. But also, I'm going to plug all the Aegis folks. They're doing a weekly tomorrow on PBE. I believe that all works out. So if you want to join in and get some PBE tournament action, go over there. And if you want to learn how to commentate, please reach out. I am always telling people or helping to explain how this kind of goes. I almost said telling people what to do, and that sounds wrong.
Keep an eye out for a DM, because I'm going to try to play in a lot of Aegis stuff this set.
We'll do.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you for like the Aegis pipeline.
Yeah. I will connect you to the folks you need to be connected with.
Okay, sweet. Sweet.
All right, Protroid, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time. All right, and just like
TFT
that,
fucking rocks.
Yeah, it does, man.
not to drop an F word, but it fucking rocks.
It's okay. Jovi's not here anymore.
That's good. I always feel so bad whenever I swear on stream, you're like, oh yeah, Jovi's right here.
All right, I think that's a great way to end the episode. For anyone who's watching right now, don't go anywhere, because as soon as the episode's over, and I'm going to do a little, I'll wrap up everything with Appies, make sure we're good to go, but then I'll be back in like 3 minutes, and we're going to do a watch through of the K3soju documentary. And we'll watch it together. I'm going to give a little bit of my commentary. I'm going to give you some insight and some behind-the-scenes stories on how it came together, and also some pretty interesting things that kind of changed how the documentary turned out drastically in the middle of the production. And just like a little taste, in case you're watching this on the podcast version and can't just like stay to watch it later, the documentary actually changed about halfway through, and I had to throw half of it out and redo it because of something that happened. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about what happened in the making of this doc, just stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a little bit. But Appies, that was episode 13. Any final words or shout outs before we go?
Kiss a homie to all.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm Gangly. This is Spicy Appies, and we will catch you next.